Tough blows for Dortmund and United. Do you think they can turn it around? Hey, how you doing? I'm Adrian, and this is Rabona TV's recap and discussion of the Champions League action from this week. Before we get into it, just a quick thank you to our sponsor, OneFootball, for helping make this video possible, as well as so many of our others. The best app in the game, OneFootball sends you all the breaking news faster than anyone. Allows you to customize your newsfeed, take part in score predictors, live tickers for when you can't watch the match, highlights, and so much more. Link in the description for a download on either iOS or Android, and it's free! Okay, let's get started with United versus PSG, and I think I may have driven everyone crazy during the watch along, talking about the complete lack of a final ball from United, which, by the way, shout out to the on average 200 of you that took in the match with me, provided your thoughts on the match, etc. But the lack of a final ball for United was astounding in this game. When their attacks weren't broken down thanks to the miscontrol of Anthony Martial or a heavy touch, they made life easy for Thiago Silva and Kimpembe by overhitting crosses, squared balls, and everything else found a defender or was collected by Buffon. That was sort of the theme in this one, as United barely troubled Buffon in the PSG goal, just a single shot on target all match. And it came in the first 10 minutes from an odd angle. Remember Rashford, that shot that looked like it hit the post? And that's another point I want to make as we talk about the second half. Power to PSG defense for staying focused for the entirety of this match, something that United's failed to do. And in the second half, it was one-way traffic as far as meaningful opportunities went, with Matic suffering from a bout of narcolepsy at the back post from the corner, leaving Kimpembe to guide it in. Part of the reason as to why United's attack was so blunt in the second half is of course due to Lingard and Martial being forced off with injury, in which Mata and Sanchez were brought on. Just saying that. You know it's not good. Uninspiring, to say the least. Angel Di Maria, on the other hand, was the complete opposite of those two, as he propelled PSG over his former side with 2 assists, later on setting up Kylian Mbappe for the tap-in. 2-0 PSG in a match that was littered with yellow cards. And the thing about this referee, Daniele Orsato, is that he tried to impose his dominance on this match early by giving out cards for things that were completely undeserving of them, like Young's baby's breath of a foul on Mbappe in the first half. And when you start carding for stuff like that, the line between a normal foul offense and a yellow card offense gets completely skewed and opens up the table for controversy later in the match. For example, Kimpembe was booked in the first half for a foul on Rashford. No complaints there. Tactical foul from him. He took his card and went. But in the second half, he held Rashford back with a foul that was worse than Ashley Young's on Mbappe, but no card was given. The ref made a mess of things. Then there's Pogba getting himself a second yellow, so he's out for the next match as well, even if the second was a little harsh in my opinion. But when you're playing in a match like this, you gotta know the referee, and put yourself in that position to get a card, he's going to give it to you. But a massive credit to Marquinhos, who was incredible both defensively and on the ball, filling in as a midfielder, as well as a huge amount of respect for Marco Verratti, who came back from injury, put in a great shift, and then was forced off again with an injury. Of course, all is not lost for United. You can't count them out just yet, as like Solskjaer said, mountains are there to be climbed. But with United losing at home in Europe by a 2-goal margin for the first time in their history, and generally just seemingly not having an answer to PSG, plus the injuries, suspensions, PSG have got to like their chances. 2-0 on aggregate, Solskjaer's first loss as a United manager, and I think that perhaps brought some of the United fans back down to earth a bit, especially you guys who are trashing me for my prediction, saying that PSG would win. Where are you now? I'm kidding. Alright, on to the other match from Tuesday, FC Porto versus AS Roma, and Roma were the homeboys, the team playing at home, and they were looking to defeat FC Porto for the first time ever in competitive play. Porto, on the other hand, have had a great season, the only blip being a loss to Sporting in a shootout. But with the arrival of Pepe, he's taken Militão's place at centre back, while Militão has been moved to right back, and ever since then, their defense has looked less assured than it had throughout the first half of the season. Porto were also without Corona due to suspension, which is a huge loss for them going forward as well. But speaking of going forward, in the first half, it was Roma with the best opportunities, most notably Edin Dzeko, who smashed one off of the post, and that was easily the most meaningful of a middling first half that wasn't exactly the most entertaining thing I've ever seen. But the second half really amped it up, or at least Roma amped it up, testing Casillas quite regularly throughout the second half. And while Casillas did end up making 7 saves, but I mean, he couldn't keep Roma out forever. While Danilo came close from a corner, Nicolo Zaniolo took over for Roma, and the 19-year-old scored a brace in 6 minutes, making him the youngest Italian to do so in the Champions League. So things weren't looking great for Porto, especially with their creative spark in Yacine Brahimi going off with an injury, but they got a lifeline in the 78th minute, moments after Zaniolo doubled Roma's lead. Adrian Lopez halved it after he latched onto a Tiki Suarez slice. So this one ended 2-1, and that away goal could be huge in deciding this fixture. Porto will be a different animal at the Dragão, but if Brahimi is out, along with Marega and Abubakar, then Porto's options in the attack will be weakened even further, and that's gotta be a worry. Alright, on to Wednesday's action, and we'll start with Real Madrid versus Ajax, and I think if you ask any fan, really, this game played out about exactly how you would expect it. Why? Everything about this result came down to experience, both the lack thereof in Ajax and the boatloads of it with Real Madrid. The first half saw Ajax with the better opportunities and the better play on the whole, with Dusan Tadic coming close when he smashed one off the post, and of course, the disallowed goal that caused a ton of confusion. People didn't know if it was called off due to a foul, if it was for offside. In the end, it was sort of a mix of both in a sense. The call was made due to Dusan Tadic shifting his body towards Courtois, thus impeding him from getting the ball while Dusan Tadic was in an offside position. Letter of the law? It's the correct call. But if he was onside, it may not have been called because it would have been seen as just jostling from a corner. But the fact that Tadic was affecting the play from an offside position as he stepped into Courtois' path, that's what determined it for the referee. However, I think that most Real Madrid fans would have been confused as to why it was called off. It wasn't obvious right away, as not a single Real Madrid player called for a foul, including Courtois himself. Just look at them right after the goal here. They all look frustrated at Courtois' blunder. So, a bit of a let-off for Courtois in Madrid after his mistake. Correct call in the end, though it was a little bit weak. Not that being weak has anything to do with anything besides sentimental purposes for Ajax fans. From there, they pushed on, but it was Real Madrid that would find the opener in the second half, thanks to the man on fire right now. Benzema sat waiting in the wings as Vinicius took on what felt like the entire Ajax back line before putting it perfectly in stride for Benzema to smash home. 1-0 Madrid, and a massive goal for the striker who became just the 4th player to score 60 Champions League goals behind Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, and Raul. And from there, the thing that I highlighted in my prediction began to come into play. Experience. Real Madrid used every bit of it to slow the game down when they could, try to take Ajax out of their groove, etc. And for the most part, it worked, despite Hakim Ziyech's equalizer. But that experience and patience once again manifested itself with Asensio grabbing a second for Real Madrid. He'll be glad that one of his 5 shots hit the back of the net, as he was blasting them from everywhere and was coming off as a little desperate at times. But funnily enough, he scored, and he actually ended the match with more shot attempts than pass attempts. So, Ajax's 30-match home unbeaten run comes to an end, and what do we get from all of this? Don't write off Real Madrid, and never ever underestimate how experience can come into play. For Ajax, they're still in this, but like United, they have a bit of a mountain to climb. If they can be more clinical in their next match, then perhaps they can come out on top, but if they fail to take chances like they did yesterday, then Madrid will end up on top with probably a couple of goals to spare. Speaking of goals to spare, let's move on to Spurs hosting Dortmund at Wembley. And going into this match, I thought that it would be pretty even. In fact, when I made my predictions of Dortmund coming on top of a close tie, they hadn't played their 2 domestic matches in which they'd leaked 6 goals and Marco Reus was injured. That changes things. Well, while Pulisic looked good on the wing in the first half, Mario Götze as a striker, while they may not have many other choices, just doesn't work out. Not against the defense of Sanchez, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Foyth. Oh, and Aurier was out there as well. But anyways, in the first half, things looked extremely even with chances going in either direction, space for the attackers. It was a joy to watch. In fact, both games on Wednesday had some great attacking moments from every team. Except for Dortmund, their moments, I guess, weren't so great. And they were punished in the second half. Like clockwork, just like in their match from the weekend, just like their match from midweek last week, Dortmund leaked no less than 3 goals, all of them in the second half this time. The first was a picture-perfect ball from wing-back Jan Vertonghen, and Heung-min Son happily obliged, scoring his 4th in as many matches for Spurs, and that was their first shot on target in the match. Then it was Vertonghen's turn to go from provider to scorer as his fellow wingback Serge Aurier supplied the goods this time. Another perfect ball in and another perfect finish. Then the game was iced by none other than the free scoring Fernando Llorente. I can't even call him free scoring with a straight face. But the big man used his best asset, his big head, to head Eriksen's corner past Berkey. For the first time ever, Dortmund concede 3 goals in the second half of a Champions League match. I was chatting with a subscriber about the scoreline on Twitter. What up, Kifa? And hey, if you want to chat with me on Twitter, just follow me, the link's in the description. But yeah, he asked if I was surprised about the scoreline, and I basically said this. Yes, I find it surprising, but at the same time, it isn't all that surprising. I thought that without Kane and Dele against Leicester this weekend, Spurs weren't great and looked like they wouldn't be a problem for Dortmund. That being said, as I alluded to before, Borussia Dortmund clearly have some major issues in defense, as evident of their last 3 matches in which they have conceded 3 goals apiece. 9 goals in 3 matches, man. That's brutal. So it's not so surprising that Tottenham scored 3. What's more surprising is that Dortmund failed to score at all. The last team to get a clean sheet against them was Atletico Madrid back on November 6th, 2018. Massive result for Spurs. No away goals for Dortmund, but there's a lot of time in between legs, and Dortmund at home have beaten teams like Atletico Madrid 4-0. So with someone like Royce returning, and as with all the ties so far, you just can't count anyone out just yet. I know that it's ridiculous to think that they're going to win 4-0, but you never know. It's definitely Spurs' tie to lose. That is 100% sure, by a long shot. Alright guys, that will do it from me on this occasion. I hope that you enjoyed the matches, as Wednesdays at least threw up some great entertainment. If you enjoyed or appreciated this video, then make sure you let me know with a like, or a dislike if you weren't feeling it. And hey, subscribe if you're new and join our growing community. We just hit 52K, so thanks a lot for the support lately, boys, and the 4.5% of you that are girls. I'm Adrian, thank you for your time, and have a nice day.